The laughter came first. Loud, sharp, and cutting through the dry afternoon air like broken glass. It wasn't the kind of laughter that brings people together. It was the kind that makes someone feel small. And in that moment, as dust swirled around an old, rusted car in a quiet backyard, a little girl held her stuffed rabbit tighter, and a single father lowered his eyes, pretending it didn't hurt. But what no one standing there realized, was that this scrap heap would soon change everything. Before we begin, if stories like this move you, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share your thoughts in the comments. You're watching Echoes of Stories, where every story carries a heartbeat. The backyard wasn't much. Just a patch of uneven dirt behind a small, aging house on the edge of town. Old tools lay scattered, and a faded tarp covered half of a car that looked like it had been forgotten by time. Ethan Cole wiped the grease from his hands onto his worn jeans. His shirt was stained, his knuckles scratched, but his eyes held something stronger than exhaustion. Determination. "Daddy, are they laughing at us?" his daughter Lily asked softly, her small voice trembling. Ethan forced a smile and knelt beside her. "No, sweetheart. They just don't understand yet." Across the fence, a group of sharply dressed people stood watching. Expensive suits. Polished shoes. Confident smiles. At the center of them was Victoria Vance, CEO of Vantech Motors, one of the biggest automotive companies in the country. She adjusted her sunglasses and laughed again, pointing at Ethan's car. "You seriously think this scrap heap can beat Vantech in the desert rally?" Her team chuckled behind her. Ethan didn't respond right away. He just stood up slowly, his hand resting on the old car's frame. "I'm not trying to beat anyone," he said calmly. "I'm just trying to finish the race." Victoria smirked. That alone would be a miracle. They turned and walked away, their laughter fading into the distance. Lily looked up at her father, her eyes filled with worry. "Daddy, are we really going to race?" Ethan nodded. "We are. But, what if we lose?" He gently brushed her hair behind her ear. "Then we'll still win, because we tried." That night, long after Lily had fallen asleep, Ethan sat beside the car under a dim light. He worked quietly, tightening bolts, adjusting wires, rebuilding what others had thrown away. Every piece of that car had a story. Junkyard finds. Late-night repairs. Sacrifices. After his wife passed away 2 years ago, Ethan had promised himself one thing: he would never let Lily feel like she had less than anyone else. Even if it meant building a dream from scraps. The Desert Rally wasn't just a race. It was a high-stakes competition with a $5 million prize. Most participants were backed by corporations, with teams of engineers and million-dollar machines. Ethan had none of that. But what he did have was heart. Days passed. Then weeks. Word spread around town about the backyard racer. Some people laughed. Others shook their heads. But a few noticed something different. Mrs. Carter from next door started bringing over home-cooked meals. "You need strength if you're going to chase crazy dreams," she'd say with a wink. A local mechanic named Joe stopped by one afternoon. "I heard what they said about you," he muttered. "Mind if I take a look?" He ended up staying until midnight, helping Ethan fine-tune the engine. Even the hardware store owner began slipping extra supplies into Ethan's purchases. "Don't worry about it," he'd say. "Just win that thing." Kindness, quiet and unexpected, began to build around Ethan like an invisible shield. And slowly, something changed. On the day of the race, the desert stretched endlessly under the blazing sun. Engines roared. Cameras flashed. Crowds gathered. Victoria Vance stood beside her sleek, state-of-the-art vehicle, surrounded by her team. Then Ethan arrived. His car rattled as it rolled in. It wasn't pretty. It wasn't polished. But it was alive. Lily sat in the passenger seat, holding her stuffed rabbit, her eyes wide with both fear and excitement. People stared. Some whispered. A few laughed. Victoria walked over, her heels sinking slightly into the sand. She looked at Ethan, then at the car. "You actually showed up," she said. Ethan smiled faintly. "I said I would." She studied him for a moment. Something in his calmness unsettled her. But she quickly brushed it off. "Good luck," she said, though her tone carried little sincerity. The race began. Dust exploded into the air as cars sped forward. Powerful engines surged ahead, leaving trails behind. Ethan's car lagged at first. It struggled. It shook. But he didn't panic. "Steady," he whispered, his hands firm on the wheel. Lily looked at him. "Daddy, we can do this." He smiled. "Yeah, we can." Miles passed. One by one, the high-end cars began to falter. Overheating engines. Tire blowouts. Mechanical failures. Ethan had built his car not for speed, but for endurance. He knew what it meant to keep going when things got hard. As the sun climbed higher, fewer cars remained. Victoria's car was still ahead, but barely. A sudden jolt shook her vehicle. Warning lights flashed. "No, no, no," she shouted as her engine sputtered. She watched in disbelief as Ethan's old, rattling car slowly passed her. For the first time, she wasn't laughing. She was staring. The final stretch approached. Crowds gathered at the finish line, cheering wildly. And then, against all odds, Ethan crossed first. Silence fell for a brief second, before erupting into thunderous applause. Lily burst into tears, hugging her father. "We did it. Daddy, we did it." Ethan held her tightly, his own eyes filled with emotion. Victoria stood at a distance, watching. Something inside her shifted. Slowly, she walked toward them. Ethan turned as she approached. For a moment, neither spoke. Then Victoria extended her hand. "I was wrong," she said quietly. "About you, and about what matters." Ethan shook her hand. "It's okay." She glanced at the car, then at Lily. "You didn't just win a race," she added. "You reminded people what real strength looks like." Ethan smiled. "I had help." And he meant it. Because this wasn't just his victory. It belonged to every small act of kindness that carried him forward. Weeks later, Ethan used part of the prize money to open a community garage. A place where people could learn, fix, and build, no matter their background. A sign hung at the entrance. "Built with kindness." And every time someone walked through those doors, they weren't just entering a garage. They were stepping into a story. A story that proved something simple, yet powerful. Kindness may not be loud. It may not shine like success or wealth. But it builds. It lifts. It carries people further than they ever thought possible. So the next time you see someone struggling, don't laugh. Because your kindness might be the very thing that helps them win their race. And sometimes, that changes everything.